I worked with a reporter for a long time where he'd tell me maybe how he wanted it shot, and I would tell him how I wanted it, and we'd come together and figure it out. Or
Yeah.
he might write a line and I'd go, hey, that's great, but what if we tweaked it this way?
Mhm.
And then it's that teamwork aspect that really helps elevate the product, versus if you put hands on everything, then you're not focused on what you focus on too much.
Welcome to The Format by Chorus Studios. Technology is always changing, and so is the format, or how we produce and consume media. The Format is a monthly newsletter on Substack and a podcast, where I, Flo of Chorus Studios, talk to you, producers, co-hosts, founders, about the newest and the best practices in podcasting today and tomorrow. From technique to technology, we will explore what new AI tools are podcasters using and why. How to prep for a podcast interview as a host or a guest. Which mics are best for your budget? And even, what happens in your brain when you listen to a podcast? These are all questions I will be asking on The Format. So I hope you'll join me on The Format on Substack. Today, I wanted to start season 2 of The Format with my cousin. It was great talking to him, kind of getting back on the saddle, so to speak, of recording podcasts after my jaw surgery. So thank you, Taylor, for making me comfortable and making this episode really special. Funny enough, I had kind of forgotten I had an Emmy award-winning cousin, photojournalist, documentary producer, podcast producer, right under my nose, right in my own family. So we usually just have fun at family gatherings, but it was a cool opportunity to sit down and get to know him professionally and learn about his perspective. He really has worked in many formats, from radio to news journalism to podcast journalism, and now branded content for a major airline. And I learned a lot about his perspective on why he thinks podcasting is so popular right now. He also gave me some great advice about pursuing some future creative projects I have in mind, documentary projects, advice that I think many of us could benefit from. So I hope you enjoy.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. Where are you right now?
I'm at home here in Dallas.
What's the temperature like there?
50s?
Oh, it's warmer there.
Uh,
It's colder here. It's like 35. So, okay. Are you feeling good to go? Do you
yeah,
need anything?
I'm
Water,
great.
coffee? You're good?
I got my soda, good to go.
Okay. Yeah, I got my water and my coffee. I don't know if I need more coffee. I'm pretty hyped up. But yeah, we got to get together at Thanksgiving for the first time in a long time. Taylor and I are cousins, first cousins, and I always knew that you worked in media, but because we don't see each other as much as we would like to, we kind of forget what each other's up to. And it was cool to hear what you're up to now and what, think about your career. And I was like, what would be a great excuse just to learn all about your professional life would be to have you on The Format to talk about all the formats.
Absolutely. I mean, long time family, first time coworker.
It's a good one. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's just fun to speak to other people in the field, getting their perspective on it, even if we're doing slightly different things, just storytelling, visual media. And I always learn something, and it's a great excuse to learn from other people and get to know other people. So
Well, that's the thing about creatives. We help each other,
yeah,
We all learn something different than just the conversations, and you go, "Oh, never thought of that." And then all of a sudden you apply it to what you're working on.
right. And for me, what I think is so interesting about the field that we're in right now is the technology, the software, the hardware is always changing. And so that can be intimidating. But the art of storytelling is just the human part that is independent of the technology. I mean, it's influenced by it, but it's something something else, you know?
I think the biggest lesson for me in the tech is that it can connect you to people a whole lot easier than you used to. I mean, look back in the days of radio, you'd had to go drive to the person's house and set up a microphone, and you spent your whole day just trying to find that person. Whereas now you can just jump on a Zoom call. You've got a conversation around the world,
Yeah.
and it's immediate.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. That was the one thing about COVID that I guess felt positive to me is like people got more comfortable doing online interviews, conversations, that kind of thing. So now I can reach out to more people in different places and potentially have a great conversation with them without having met them in real life. So we were joking on our email thread about how, well, because I was like, we both work in radio. Well, sort of. And you said no, I haven't, except for the podcast. But then I wanted to ask you, like, didn't you start out DJing on the radio?
So I thought about that after my email. You're right. I did DJ for a radio station for a very short time. And it was more like I pressed play and it was an online radio station. I was a DJ for the radio, but that was all volunteer. They didn't pay me. So if they don't pay you, does it count?
I think so, yeah. It's
Okay.
like
and then
an
and then I do weddings or whatever. And that was the fun side. That was where I got paid. You're getting married. I'll play your song. It was a good way to earn extra money in college, you know? Everyone needed a DJ. I got invited to all the parties. I didn't have to be the cool kid.
So, okay, let's go through your journey. And what I think for me and for the audience is kind of cool is you have worked in different mediums or formats, as you could call them. So take me through your career journey from DJing in college to where you are now.
I majored in radio, television, film, and there were those three paths: radio, TV, and film. And I was on the TV route. Like that was my passion. I wanted to be a storyteller in news, and that was like my focus. But alongside, they kind of force you to, okay, you take a film class and you take a radio class, and so you gain these extra skills. But I never once thought, hey, I need to focus on radio, or I'm gonna need to learn film, or and so fast forward, got my degree, got a job, and started my life in TV news. I was a photojournalist for a long, long time in TV news, storytelling there, which evolved into doing two documentaries, so kind of the film route, and then starting our own podcast, the radio route. And so in a small span of time, all of a sudden I was doing radio, TV, and film again, just on a larger format. I did a full length documentary, and then we also ran a podcast that started was a political podcast for Texas, and it grew quickly, over 1 million listeners, just blew up. But that started in COVID. You know, that was one of those, hey, what can we do during COVID, and how do we tell these stories, and how do we keep information out? My role in the show was getting the hosts kind of aligning topics, figuring out what was the main thing that was happening for the state at the time, figuring out who the best person to speak to that was, and then facilitating kind of the tech. And my hosts did a great job just finding the content and the questions and knowing where we needed to go. And then I'd take all of that, put it all back together, edit, and turn it around.
I couldn't watch the documentaries, but I did listen to an episode of Y'all-itics? Yeah, which is like Y'all Politics, which I thought was fun.
Very Texan.
Yeah. And I was like, is he going to be on the show? I didn't hear you on the show. You were the producer.
Yeah. So my role in the show was getting the hosts kind of aligning topics, figuring out what was the main thing that was happening for the state at the time, figuring out who the best person to speak to that was, and then facilitating kind of the tech. And my hosts did a great job just finding the content and the questions and knowing where we needed to go. And then I'd take all of that, put it all back together, edit, and turn it around.
Yeah, I listened to it. It was very highly produced, edited, however you want to describe it. Stylistically, it was more traditional news than like NPR, because the hosts just have that like local news voice. But the way it was edited was similar to like you've got clips of people speaking.
It's produced well, but it's the focus of it is more of a conversation to talk in less sound bites. NPR does a really good job of making it sound like a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
but still editing in sound bites, right? It's still
Right.
highly, highly produced. Politics was more of a, hey, let's talk and we'll shorten it down and we'll slim it up and we'll clean it up. But it was designed to go into the issue more than just a soundbite. If you were
Okay.
going to talk about something political, you know, 30 seconds of air doesn't really always give you the best viewpoint. So we found that the podcast gave them enough runway to like, hey, here's what we're talking about and why.
Right. You went, the hosts were able to dig deeper, but you did have clips from politicians and like,
Yeah, we
yeah.
would occasionally. I mean,
Oh,
it's been
okay.
a long time since I've produced it, and honestly, it's probably evolved a lot since I started it.
I wanted to ask you, I mean, based on the idea that it was highly edited, I was going to ask you how much effort, because it's like a lot of effort versus like the conversational shows are a little simpler to edit typically.
The conversational shows are a little simpler to edit, but I still think that it did take a while. So the way we produced it, and I don't know if they still do, we weren't using Riverside, we were using Zoom. So then we would have to go through sync audio, clean it up, make it sound good. And
Mm-hmm.
then we would listen for like, all right, where does it lag? Where do we need to shorten it up? What does that conversation look like? We would clean it up so that it was more digestible and you could learn from whatever they were talking about without editing too much what they had to say.
I feel like that's an ethical aspect of journalism. And even though I'm not technically a journalist, I feel really strongly about it just in general, like keeping the the message or the intent of what people are saying clear and not making it sound like they're saying something they weren't trying to say, you know?
It's keeping the intent and the message the same. I think, it's one thing to edit for clarity. If there's a cough or that's not a problem. That's typical production. But I think it's also, okay, did he get to the point, or does this side story that they start telling affect the main message? And if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, then let's pull that out, maybe shorten it for length, but we can still understand, hey, this is poignant.
So I've never worked in news. I went to a similar, probably a kind of similar type of program. It was a master's program at an art school where we practiced making news segments with, but it was mostly the video editing. It wasn't like the sourcing that the any of the journalistic stuff to like make sure the dots are connected correctly. Um, was there any extra work you guys did for like the show notes or any references?
We did have a producer who was also involved. We kind of shared roles. I kind of was more on the technical side, making sure the technical all met specifications. I was there to kind of help ideate the ideas. Hey, we should talk to this person, kind of help brainstorm, because I think the more brains that go into it, the smarter the podcast is. But then we would also have another producer who was technically our political producer, and he would go through, re-listen to the podcast, write a whole web article, clean
Mm-hmm.
up the show notes, and then give it contextual basis for why it's important to listen to. So we kind of
Mm-hmm.
would divvy out the tasks, which is why because we had so many people, we were able to have that once a week format, but it was really, really hard to maintain that.
Right. It's a heavy lift.
It really can get kind of hairy in terms of schedules. But on the flip side, with the technology, it was great. We could involve people in Washington, D.C., or at the state capitol, or in Houston. We could meet the politicians where they were, which was a lot easier to tell their story and include them than in traditional TV, where we would have to go drive to them and interview them and set up a camera and all of that.
That's a good point because I mean, what I love about podcasting is, I mean, there's video if you want there to be video, but it's audio first. I've been listening to Good Hang with Amy Poehler a lot lately
Yes.
because I need that like positive, fun energy in my life right now. Especially when I'm doing things I don't love to do, like laundry or dishes or mindless things that bore me. So she has a video, right? And a lot of times
Right.
she'll have like Claire Danes or someone or Jennifer Lawrence, people I'd like to watch it. I'm curious to see them and hear them. But I also do just listen to it sometimes. And I notice like my experience is so different depending on if I watch it or listen to it. I feel like if I just listen to it, I feel a lot more intimate. I feel like I'm more in the room. Like it feels like a more intimate fly on the wall experience versus watching it. It's like, oh, it's a TV show. Like I'm more of like a viewer, you know?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of Smartless
Yeah.
on my drive, and you're right. It has that engaging quality where you get to be a part of the conversation that they're having, even though you have nothing to add and they don't ever ask you questions, but you feel more engaged in that conversation and you feel like you're sitting down with some buddies and you learn the inside jokes and you think it's funny and you follow along with them and you go, oh, okay.
There's something about it, like even if you're in the car, you don't have headphones in, but it's a very personal listening experience, right? You're either in the car or you have headphones on typically when you're listening to a podcast. And that's just lends itself to feeling like it's just intimate. Like the sound is so, it's like in your head.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, this is fun to talk about with you just because I think about this sort of philosophical, I'm sure there's a scientific element to how we consume media, like how it impacts us, how we process it. And there's a lot of debate in the industry right now about video versus audio, and there's good reasons for both. And so it's kind of fun to think about.
I do listen to a lot of NPR
Mhm.
podcasts as well. And I do listen to, there's a lot of protests going on currently and a lot of things going on. And just the audio podcast probably allowed them to have some people who maybe didn't want their faces on. They didn't want to be the face or the voice. They were okay with being the voice, but maybe not the face
Yeah.
of, what their feelings were or what their concerns were. And so it provides a intimate listen into what's happening in their head. It brings you into the environment, but it also maybe protects the person a little bit, and
Yeah.
brings you into a place you probably wouldn't have with the TV camera.
I absolutely agree. The interview that comes to mind always with that concept of like, it allowing for more freedom for the guest, right? Is Obama on Marc Maron's show. I think it was at the beginning of his second term. And he literally did it in his garage. And it was like, I don't know. It's just such a great interview because he comes across as authentic often anyway. So it's not like totally unusual. But there was something about that conversation that felt like we shouldn't be, like, it was very real. Like, not that we shouldn't be listening, but it's like you're in the room and it's not private, but
It's
not it's not
it's
public
intimate. It's
either.
intimate.
It's
Yeah.
intimate. Yeah, it's real. Very,
It was interesting. He was talking about, I guess, how it happened, and he was like, "I only have one bathroom, like in my house. Like, what if the president needs to go to the bathroom and the Secret Service is
yeah.
using it, or like he was worried about all of the, like a guest was coming over. You want the house immaculate and concerned, and he's like, we're doing this in my garage, but okay."
But I bet Obama loves that. He seems like a cool guy to hang out with and just very real, but probably appreciates not having to be super formal. But yeah, it's true. It's something I think about too. Like I've actually had guests on this show and other shows that I produce where, I mean, we told them it was video. We sent them the link to the show. It has videos. There's no reason they wouldn't know it was video, but just because we said podcast, they didn't think that they were going to be on video. Like, or they knew we were collecting the video. They didn't know. They just didn't think
I
we
didn't
like,
think about the distribution
yeah,
platform.
they didn't
Yeah,
think we're going to release it on video, even though all the other episodes have video. Like, for whatever reason. And that I just feel bad. I'm like, I need to be really clear about that because I don't want people to see the clips on social media after and be like, ah, like I had one guest be like, just, I could tell she was flustered and I felt bad. So I've tried to be even more upfront about it. And the reason I do it is just mostly for the clips.
well,
Um,
I think you got to promote yourself. I think we are inundated with media. I mean, you pull up your phone and you get 3 seconds on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and if it doesn't have an image related to it, then it doesn't grab your attention as quick. And so I I think some people might want video for the experience to listen through it, but I also think that it's also part of the marketing aspect of how you tell your story is you want that potential listener, that potential viewer to see you, to see who you are, and to understand what the conversation is, and then go, "Hey, I might engage with that. What is that? Let me dig deeper."
Right. Yeah. Well, we got off the topic of your career evolution and deep into the conversation of podcasting. Tell me a little bit about. So you were at Channel 8 News.
So I actually interned at Channel 8 when I was in college. Channel 8 just afforded me so many opportunities to meet people, to tell stories, to just hone my craft a little bit more. They're the reason why I had 2 documentaries produced. They're the reason why the podcast got started. It was
They really believed in you. They kind of let you and your teammates fly.
Totally. So I'll start with maybe one of the documentaries we produced. It ended up being a film that an independent producer licensed our video off of, but we had this huge story tip, and it was just a crazy story, and we thought, well, let's just go out there and tell the story. We went out there for 2 days, expected, a 2.5 to 3 minute news clip.
Mm-hmm.
And as we kept uncovering and as we kept figuring out what the content we had, what was available to us, we started really realizing that this is more than a 3-minute conversation. It turned into maybe a half-hour documentary, and it was just a fascinating story that we realized we couldn't tell in 3 minutes. And so we came back to the bosses and said, "Hey, we've got your 3-minute version. Totally fine. That's what you sent us out there for. But we'd like to do this." And it's not like it cost them any extra money. We had all of the elements. We shot everything while we were out there, and we just thought, "Hey, there's a lot we can do here." And we had a great boss who believed in us, said, "Hey, go for it, do it." And that was kind of what was so fun about Channel 8 is if you had an idea and you wanted to innovate and you wanted to change the way, hey, we'll back you. It's a crazy story. It's about a story of an art thief, and essentially who we think 30 years later, we essentially solved the crime for the FBI, or the FBI solved the crime as we were telling the story. It was one of those weird things. And as we talked to the community, they're like, "Well, we've got video of the painting being discovered, and we've got pictures of this," and all of this content just kind of flooded in when we went out there. We went, there's more than we need. Like this tells a huge story.
Which film was this? What was the name?
Discovering de Kooning. It's on YouTube if you want to look at it. It's a short story. Essentially, someone we knew, their aunt uncle passed away, and they were the executor of the will. They went and sold all of their items. They had nothing, nowhere for it to go. They sent it to a consignment agency, and the consignment agency kind of was looking at some art that they had, and they said, this looks interesting. I think this painting's been missing for 30 years.
Whoa.
And they called the FBI, and it was a de Kooning that had been missing, was stolen out of, I believe it was Tucson's art library, and it was worth millions.
Wow.
And it just happened to be hidden in the house that no one would have known.
Ooh, we can leave the story untold. We can let people go watch it. And
yes, go watch it.
That really inspires me because they're a little, I'm not a journalist, but I feel like, caveat, I feel like roles are like, I think journalistic ethics are important, but I feel like you can kind of be a citizen journalist if you want, right? There's some really cool stories that I'd love to investigate, and I love that, you guys did your piece and then someone licensed it and they turned it into a film.
Yes,
right?
Yes, and yes. So we did our piece. We did a whole 30-minute, and then they ended up licensing some of the video we shot, and that debuted at South by Southwest. They licensed our video, and it basically debuted at South by Southwest as a film.
In what format was it? Like
The doc. They told it in an interesting way. It was kind of a docudrama where they kind of, I think, used some animations and some actors as well to kind of play it out, so less newsy. But because of some connections we had, essentially, we had access to the family's house of the aunt uncle who had passed away, where the painting was. And so we were the only film crew to go in there before the house got sold and passed down, and so that we had the rights to all the footage. So they licensed that, and then I think they ended up creating their own docudrama.
That's so cool. I wonder. I'm just
The
thinking
Thief
out loud.
Collector is the name of the story.
Okay, cool. If you guys had taken that story further, at what point would it have been intellectual property they would have had to have bought in a more robust way than just licensing the footage?
I think because we're a news organization, we were able to tell it in a way that we didn't have to buy rights, so long as they were willing to share that. But to put it into a film festival as intellectual property, they did license with the family and have their story. So they went through a whole different process and shared assets. But it's a different. It's almost like different rules you have to play by if you're covering it as a news story versus if you're selling it to the film circuit.
That makes sense. All that stuff is really interesting to me. I have a dream about turning a real event of Raleigh history into a feature film, but there would be a lot of steps in between. Like I want it to be based on real things that happen, but I want to turn it into a narrative story.
You've got to do your groundwork. You got to figure out the stories, and then you got to figure out a way to find the alignment between all of those stories to make a cohesive story out of multiple stories.
It would be a huge leap for me. I've never worked in feature film. I've never written a script. I've never written, it'd just be like throwing a dart in the dark, see what happens.
Well, and that's what people specialize in too, as well. I mean, a producer's job is to find those pieces. A writer's job is to write it. It's all about budget, and that's what everything's about. But if you've got a project you believe in, you got to find the resources and the people to come alongside with you to help you tell that story.
That's a great reminder. I actually spoke to someone else who worked in IP in Hollywood, and we were just talking about this sort of thing. He was saying, yeah, you need to remember that as a producer, you don't have to do everything. You can hire a writer.
Absolutely.
In my mind, I'm like, I have to do everything. I don't know why.
It's because I think you've got a passion for the story you're telling, and you want to be involved at the deepest levels, but you will learn that the product is better if you rely on everyone else's strengths.
Totally.
And that's kind of how I've worked for a long time. I worked with a reporter for a long time where he'd tell me maybe how he wanted it shot, and I would tell him how I wanted it to shoot, and we'd come together and figure it out. Or he might write a line and I'd go, hey, that's great, but what if we tweaked it this way? And then it's that teamwork aspect that really helps elevate the product versus just if you put hands on everything, then you're not focused on you focus on too much. You got to start somewhere, and as the podcast grows, you'll have those people come alongside you.
So that lends us to, after Channel 8, you were there for a long time. Then now you're with a major airline doing content. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's totally a different avenue. I'd done media for 15, 20 years, decided, hey, time to hang up my news hat. I still appreciate the product and I still love it, but work-life balance is really hard in news. Got a growing family, and so I had an opportunity to start with this airline. It's all the same in the same way, people all have stories to tell. News comes with an expectation of telling both sides and having a well-rounded story and thinking through it. The only difference between working for a corporation now is hey, the side you're telling is what the corporation wants you to hear, and there's pluses and minuses to that, but at the same time, it's an easy story to tell. If you've got great people in the organization who've got a story to tell, then I'm in. It doesn't matter if it's going out on TV or not, or if it's going to your phone. I think stories are worth telling, and there's a million places to find them.
Right. I did watch some of the shorts that I think you've been a part of on their YouTube channel. There's a lot about, it's just people, the pilots, their story, the passengers, children who want to learn how to fly a plane, very, very sweet stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's really no different than how I would have approached it at news. It's got a corporate angle to it, and it's trying to sell a product, if you will, but at the same time, that doesn't make their story any less valid or any less emotional. They're real people going through real life stories and are willing to share it. And I think that's what makes storytelling important is finding those people who have a story to tell or have a narrative that maybe you're not aware of or you didn't know was going on. Where it comes out doesn't matter. Their story is just as real and just as impactful to the listener or the viewer as it would be on a major market TV station. The only difference is who signs the paycheck.
Right. And I think it's not always a given that a corporation will approach their storytelling in an authentic way. In my opinion, this airline is doing a good job of that. And that's like part of their general values as a company. So that like trickles down to you where everyone just feels more comfortable to be themselves, and it's authentic.
Yeah, it's not a pundit. It's not a talking head who feels lifeless, who feels like they're gonna stick their heels in the sand. That's just not. I think people see through that. I think people see that, and it doesn't connect with people, and it doesn't bring a valuable product. So to have an employer who is totally good with, hey, people are important. Go tell me why.
Yeah.
And I think that people connect with that, and people can see themselves.
I do think I have a woo-woo belief that like if you're being authentic, if you're on camera, people can kind of feel how other people feel. Like there's like a realness that can come through if it's authentic. If it's not, it can kind of come through as well. It's my opinion.
I think you're absolutely right. I think people can read mannerisms. They can listen. They can. It's very easy to tell who's being authentic and who's being real. My job is to help make people look good, to sound good, and to tell their story. And I'm 100% in on that. And that's part of doing the job as a producer and as a storyteller is to make them feel comfortable, because if they don't feel comfortable, then it's harder to connect. And so a lot of the way I go through that process is just like you're doing right now, is having this conversation.
Yeah.
Just because I say the word interview, people get tense and oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And you did the same thing that I sort of do. You started recording and you just said, don't let it worry. Don't let it. But a lot of people, if you say, hey, I'm starting, they tense up and,
oh, totally.
Gosh, I don't want to start. And, now we're on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be that. I personally don't even tell them when I'm recording. It's just, hey, we're going to have a conversation. And everything looks good, and then I hit record, and then we just keep talking, and we flow right into the conversation of what's happening. And a lot of times when you finish, you go, okay, we're done. And they go, but when did we start?
Yeah. You always get the best takes that way. And in podcasting, I think what I like about it is, unless you're a really good actor, presenting yourself on a podcast or a video is intimidating, and it's easier to do it in conversation. It's easier to do it when you're in conversation with someone else than to like read a script or something if you're not like a really trained actor, right?
Well, and I think podcasts, it's easy because it is getting to know that person. It is that conversation. It's designed in a way that you don't have to give a 2-sentence answer and move on. You get the ability to have length if you want it. You get the ability to expound if you want it. And I think people truly get to see who that person is rather than just what they're saying too.
I love talking to you about podcasting and brand comms and storytelling and internet intellectual property. I feel like we covered so much. It's really
We
fun.
have. It's nice to meet on a work front and not necessarily singing the Beatles by the fire, but I'll take that too.
I know. As I'm doing this, something I hope Taylor thinks I'm doing a good job.
You're doing great.
I'm like, I want him to like me as a professional. Yeah. Well, I think we can close on that note, and then I'll just say thank you for everything, and I'll put some links in the show notes. All right. Well, I'm gonna end the show now, and then we can stay on. Thank you, Taylor.
Yes, thanks, Flo.
Thank you for listening to The Format. Head to substack.com, that's substack.com, to subscribe to The Format on Substack for our next monthly episode and blog about the future of podcasting. Stay real.